Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 9 of Hurd in the House, the podcast for Colorado's 3rd Congressional District. Today's guest is the second highest-ranking member of the United States House of Representatives, Majority Leader Steve Scalise. He is a Louisiana native whose Sicilian great-grandparents opened a grocery store near the Superdome, so you could say he knows something about roots and also about resilience. Leader Scalise has spent his career fighting for the people of Louisiana's 1st District, from helping communities recover after devastating storms to standing up for working families, small businesses, and America's energy future. Most importantly, he's a husband, a dad, a man of deep faith, and someone who leads with strength and with humility. I can tell you, having worked with him directly, that he is the real deal. Leader Scalise, welcome to Hurd in the House.
Well, thanks so much, Jeff, for having me, and congratulations, 9 episodes. You're like a professional at this now.
We're getting there. We're getting there for sure. Look out. Look out, podcast world.
You got a future in this business.
There you go. So let's start with a really important question, Leader Scalise. Is it true that Louisiana has more recipes for crawfish than we have members of Congress? And is there a correct way to handle the crawfish experience, or is that left to states' rights?
Well, look, you don't want to mess up crawfish. There's definitely a lot of different ways to cook crawfish, and it's not like the Forrest Gump. You got boiled shrimp and fried shrimp. We do a lot of different things with crawfish, but the best way is to boil them live. You take the crawfish whole, boil it, and then you got to break it apart, peel it, suck the head, all the juice, the seasoning, a lot of good cayenne pepper, good seasoning, and then you eat the meat. And there is nothing like a good South Louisiana crawfish boil.
I love it. Now, a lot of people hear the title Majority Leader, but might not know what that really means. So for the folks back home in Louisiana and Colorado, what does the Majority Leader actually do, and why is it so important?
So a few things that are part of my official job, and the main one is that the Majority Leader schedules the House floor. So when you see bills on the House floor, they didn't just get there by accident. Just because a bill comes out of a committee doesn't mean it automatically goes to the House floor. It's got to get scheduled. And so I work closely with the committee chairman. And, a lot of times we will coordinate weeks in advance. And so, for example, we just did the Working Families Tax Cut. Yep. That was a bill that involved 11 different committees that all needed to deliver things in a very timely manner so we could bring that bill to the floor. We had a very aggressive time frame to bring it to the floor. President Trump wanted to have it on his desk by July 4th. A lot of people in Washington said there was no way it could be done, especially when we had a 1-seat majority at some of those periods of time. And so I had to work real closely with the committees to say, first, these are the things that we're going to want to be in the bill. Your committees are going to have to produce those things out of committee, have them ready by these dates so we can get them on the floor on these dates to pass them over to the Senate. And that's what I do on a regular basis. So I work closely with the Speaker, work with the President, and then, of course, work with all the committee chairs so that we're fulfilling our agenda. The things we ran on, we can deliver them on the House floor.
I remember when we were passing the Working Families Tax Cut, the One Big Beautiful Bill, out of the House, I was asked, I had an interview, I think, with CNN or NBC, maybe 2 or 3 days before that bill was passed out of the House, and they told me, what's your sense, Congressman Hurd, is this going to get passed? And I said, I have confidence in leadership and that they're going to get it done. And you guys got it through. It was a great result for the House, but also for our districts and most importantly for our country.
Well, thanks. And that bill, Jeff, did so many big, important things for our country. We wanted to, number one, make sure nobody in America had a tax increase. Everybody who pays taxes in America was about to get a tax increase. And for most people, we're talking about a 30% or more tax increase. So you're making $50,000 a year. This isn't the millionaires and the billionaires that we're talking about. Everybody was going to see that. We wanted to stop that from happening. We wanted to deliver on President Trump's promise of border security. So we had a lot of things in that bill to help finish building the wall, give the high technology to our Border Patrol agents, where the drug cartels in Mexico embarrassingly had better technology than our Border Patrol agents. And that's why they had operational control of our southern border. We reversed that in that bill. We produced more energy. We had become very dependent over the Biden years on foreign countries for our energy. It resulted in higher costs at the pump. Most people just care when they go to fill up their car when they see $4 a gallon gasoline or higher.
Yeah.
That's when they really get angry about energy prices or they pay their utility bills. Well, it all starts really with exploration, either in America, where we open up more areas in America, but if you shut down America, it just allows the cartels, OPEC, Iran, Russia, bad countries, to be able to run our global energy policy, and they were. We changed that in that great bill by opening up more areas from Anwar up on the North Slope of Alaska all the way to the Gulf of America, where we mandate more lease sales, and we are now seeing billions of dollars of investment back in America. Well, it's good jobs and lower energy costs.
There's also, for people in Colorado's 3rd Congressional District, water is a big deal. There was $1 billion of water infrastructure in that bill. There's also Pell Grants for vocational students. There are things that you don't hear about in the news that are huge. Any one of those issues, you could have divided that bill up into two dozen different bills,
right,
all of which would have been huge wins.
Modernizing
for
our air traffic control system, that was in the bill.
Yep.
Federal school choice that each state will be able to participate in for low-income families. So, we're going to be talking about it a lot. And there's so much to talk about that is good for working families.
Yep. Now, we are in week 5 of what's become the longest government shutdown on record. This one is Democratic-led shutdown. That is not the kind of milestone anyone wants to hit. Last week, I was home in Colorado visiting food banks and visiting with county commissioners, and someone asked me, why do you keep calling it a Democratic-led shutdown? So let's start there. What's your response when someone asks, why are we calling this a Democratic-led shutdown?
Yeah, so one of the basic functions of Congress is to fund the government. And you normally have 12 appropriations bills that you work through the process to pass before the October 1st funding deadline. Obviously, we're not there because we had a big disagreement between Republicans and Democrats. So to prevent a government shutdown in late September, we knew we were at an impasse. So let's just bring a bill to fund the government till November 21st. We'd picked a date, but to give us 6 more weeks to negotiate our differences. So, basic bill, just keep the lights on. And that bill passed on a party line vote. So the House passed it. We passed it. You and I voted for it. Almost every Democrat voted no. So it goes to the Senate, and it's been over there for longer than a month. And Democrats have chosen, for whatever reason, to keep the government shut down. So when you see a bill that will open the government back up again, and Republicans are voting yes, and Democrats are voting no, who else is shutting the government down?
That's right.
It's very straightforward. Even the labor unions, who are not our normal allies as Republicans, have all called on Democrats to pass what's called the Clean Continuing Resolution. It's not a partisan bill.
No gimmicks, no poison pills, no tricks in that legislation.
Just keep the lights on while we negotiate our differences. But don't hold the American people hostage. And that's what Democrats have chosen to do. And it's a shame. It's hurting real people.
Yep. Now, Leader Scalise, beyond the headlines, shutdowns create real-world consequences. Men and women in uniform are left unpaid. It's the same for TSA agents and for air traffic controllers. There are impacts on park rangers, USDA loans, small businesses. The House passed the bill to reopen the government. We're still waiting on the Senate. What's your message to the other side of the Capitol and to the American people?
Well, it's that you're hurting real people. When you vote to shut the government down, and we've had that bill 14 times in the Senate where senators get that choice to make. You're going to vote yes to open the government, no to keep it shut down. I would hope that they would start thinking about the families in Colorado. You probably have nearly 1 million families in Colorado that are not going to get SNAP benefits. That's the food stamp program. These are low-income people. And incidentally, by the way, both of your senators from Colorado keep voting no to keep the government shut down. And, you, Jeff, voted yes. You voted to fund those programs, to pay our troops, to pay our air traffic controllers. You got an airport like Denver, very busy airport, big hub for so many other states. A lot of air traffic goes through it. Right now, people are waiting hours and hours longer if they're maybe going on a family vacation, going to Thanksgiving, going on go see their relatives. They're waiting maybe an extra 4 hours to go through the airport. But then think about that air traffic controller who's got a very high-stress job already. And in normal times, now He's got to show up for work, manage the air traffic. Hopefully you don't have any incidents, but also he knows he's not getting paid.
Yeah.
And his bills are still due. How do you, as a Democrat senator from Colorado, vote no, keep the government shut down, when you know you're inflicting real pain on millions of people? 42 million SNAP benefits nationwide, not getting food stamps. I mean, these are the most vulnerable amongst us. And what are you doing this for? What kind of point? Just because you're angry with the results of last year's election? That's not a reason to hold the American people hostage. Clearly, we have a lot of other differences on a lot of issues, but you shouldn't hold people hostage over your anger with Donald Trump and with the results of the election. I mean, the American people made a statement last year in the election, and we ought to respect that Democratic election that was held.
That's right. Now, Leader Scalise, the House has acted, and we're waiting on the Senate. I want to shift gears, though, from gridlock to what drew most of us to Congress in the first place, which is legislating and getting work done. You've been in Congress since 2008. You've had the speakerships of Boehner, Ryan, Pelosi, McCarthy, and now Mike Johnson. From that vantage point, what do you think are the most underrated skills that actually make someone effective in Congress?
It's a really good question. I mean, I've seen a lot in different forms of leadership. I've been in leadership for a number of years, and, even just a number of different speakers, and each one's got their own style, definitely different personalities, different styles. I really think being a good listener is probably the most important aspect of a leader, because, when you're trying to build consensus, and I mean, I mentioned earlier, Jeff, we have this one seat majority, and you've seen how hard it is to pass legislation. And whether we had a 30-seat majority in years past or today, what we have, you have to build consensus, especially when you have a narrow majority, which means you better be listening to everybody. You better be finding out what it is that unites us. How are we going to achieve the things we both wanted when maybe we have a little bit different approach, but we want to end up in the same place? That's why it's so important to listen first, build the consensus, and then go get this country back on track.
I had somebody say once their advice was, don't listen to respond, but listen to understand first, and that's a key aspect.
And people will tell you what they're trying to achieve as well, because if you don't know what the other members of this conference want to achieve, you're not going to be able to get them to buy into what you're trying to do, because we have got to get a coalition. 218 is our magic number. Unfortunately, every Democrat has chosen to vote no on all the big things we've done that are part of the Trump agenda. Again, securing the border, biggest issue in the country, but shouldn't be a partisan issue, but they made it that. And so if they're all going to vote no, we still need to put a coalition together to get it done and deliver for the American people. And we have.
Right, we have. If you could give one piece of advice to new members of Congress or even state legislators, I know we have a couple of state legislators from Colorado that listen to this podcast. If you could give them advice on how to legislate and not just posture, what would that advice be?
Legislating is such an art form, but it involves building consensus. But you also really need to know, I think the most important thing you could have in terms of advice is go find role models, go find mentors, people that you look up to. We all serve in these positions. I served in a legislature first and learned so much in that legislative body, in part because I had really good mentors. I came in as a 30-year-old kid who was not in politics. My family wasn't in politics. And you're thrown into the Louisiana legislature of all places, like the ghost of Huey Long still walks those halls. And yet I still wanted to get things done. I still wanted to, help fix problems in our state. And so I needed to find people that I respected who understood how things worked so I could learn how to get things accomplished. And I was luckily able to do that. And you'll find, by the way, if you seek out mentors, people that you look up to that have been around, that have experience, they want to help other people. Good leaders want to help younger people who are in it for the right reasons, and they'll help you learn if you ask the right questions, and even if you're not asking the right questions. But seek out good people that you respect, because they're not going to keep it all to themselves. If they truly are a good leader, they want to help you be successful too. And those are the people that you want to just pick their brain every single day, and you'll find that they will bend over backwards to help you.
What goals should a freshman member be setting, and what are common missteps that keep new members from reaching them?
Yeah, I get back to the old Schoolhouse Rock days of legislating. I'm just a bill, and a lot of people forget that when they become legislators. It's still the basics. If you file a bill, the committee chairman is not just sitting around going, wow, Jeff filed this great bill, I better schedule it, I better bring it up. You're going to have to go sit down and talk to that committee chairman and let him know it's a priority of yours. My gosh, the people of my district in Colorado need this change in law for these reasons. Go sell it. You got to be a salesperson and then ask him for a committee hearing. Because if you're not asking for a committee hearing on your bill, he's got 800 other bills that might be, kind of before his committee that he's going to just put it ahead of them. And you want to make it clear to the chairman why it's a priority for you and the country. And then, boom, you get your bill scheduled. We'll work and talk to the other committee members. You got to pass the bill out of committee. Just getting the hearing isn't enough. These are friends of yours. These are colleagues of yours. Don't let the first time they hear about your bill be when you're sitting in front of the committee and they go, oh, I had no idea. So, do the work, the basic work of talking to people.
Okay. Let's talk about relationship capital. You're second to none in that. You answer every text I send you. You show up. You even came by personally and delivered a small gift to my office when my first bill passed in the House. How important is that personal touch, and how do you use it to build coalitions?
Well, I still think this is such a relationship business, and you should never take it for granted. I mean, I'm blessed. We get to serve with incredible people, and it's easy in these jobs to get caught up in the daily meetings. Your staff will schedule you every 15 minutes, and you can just be meeting nonstop. But to miss the aspect of the personal relationships is it's invaluable, because to get to know my colleagues better, what makes them tick, what are they interested in? Part of my job as majority leader is I can schedule the floor. I can help you get your bill moving through committee if you're having trouble, and I want you to be successful. And so some of that is, you text me about something important. I'd be failing as a leader if I didn't pay attention and say, okay, let me figure out how I can help you, because that's part of my job.
Now, I want to pivot from the big picture to something a little lighter. It's time for our lightning round. Quick hits, no filibusters allowed.
Yeah.
Leader Scalise, you represent Louisiana's 1st District. What is one hidden gem about your district back home that everyone should know about?
Oh, the food. My gosh. Popeye's fried chicken started in my district, some of the best seasonings, Cajun cooking. A lot of those seasonings are made in my district, and I love cooking. Cajun cooking is the best.
Well, I'm going to have to, I trust you that it's really good, but I have to go verify it myself. I'm going to have to go to
I'll bring you
Louisiana's
down,
first.
and you'll eat a charbroiled oyster, and you'll never want to go home.
If you walked into a rural town in your district tomorrow and asked, what should Congress fix next, what answer would you expect?
I think people still care about the high cost of things. Inflation from the Biden administration is still running high, and interest rates too. And, we're working on that, but it is a lingering effect that hurts everybody.
Name a member or two of Congress who's no longer serving for whom you had a lot of respect.
Oh, man. Serve with some giants. Kevin Brady was one of those guys who, he was chairman of the Ways and Means Committee. I actually got to room with him. And so, you really get to see how he ticks. But he was the author of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, and a man with incredibly high integrity. Every day, this guy never carried airs, even as chairman of Ways and Means. He just wanted to go to work, get things done, and help other people along the way. And everybody respected Kevin, everybody.
Beignets or biscuits?
Oh, beignets.
Where can one go in Louisiana's 1st District for a good beignet?
Well, you got Cafe Du Monde. I mean, that's the original. You can't beat it. I mean, people make them out of a box. You can't make it at home. You got to go to Cafe Du Monde.
All right. Leader Scalise, you've given us a lot to think about, from where the real influence lies in Congress to where the best beignets are found. I want to close with something a little more personal. You've been through what most people would call miracles, or at least near miracles, surviving a horrific, politically motivated shooting, then being diagnosed with multiple myeloma. All the while, your Catholic faith has played a central role. When you look back on those experiences, how have they shaped your sense of purpose in Congress?
Well, luckily, I started with a strong faith already. And, you don't really know how good your faith is until you're tested. We all are tested. Something's thrown at us, a curveball. When I was shot, I almost died on that ball field. And I prayed to God at the moment that it was the lowest. And I didn't know if I was going to make it through that day. I just put it in God's hands and trusted that he was going to get me through it. Whatever was meant to be. I don't control the future, God does. And I trusted him, and he answered every prayer I made that day and performed miracles, Jeff. He performed real miracles that I got to see that day.
My guest today has been Majority Leader of the United States House of Representatives, Steve Scalise. Steve, thank you for joining Hurd in the House.
Thanks for having me, and glad to be part of episode 9.
Thanks for tuning in to Hurd in the House. For more on today's episode and updates from Colorado's 3rd District, check out my YouTube channel at Rep Jeff Hurd. That's REPJEFFHURD. Follow along on social media. Go to my website, hurd.house.gov, and subscribe to my newsletter to stay connected. Until next time, you heard it here first.